let's talk about the tariffs over in Mexico, Canada, and China. All right. So I've been staying on top of this like I always am because I never just do one story. I like to follow things so that I can give the full context, understand what the storylines are, and then hopefully add value into your life. And then we figure out where it comes back down to the money, right? So, whereas every other network is just casually reporting the tariffs and they just reporting whatever the AP is giving to them or whatever Reuters is giving to them, I'm following this thing all the way through to the end, right? We're going to follow Trump's entire presidency and we're going to report the good, the bad, the indifferent. And I also want to hopefully educate you guys on more than just what they promote to you during the national election. Okay. So recently, Trump has said that he's going to implement tariffs. For those of you that are new here, he's going to implement tariffs starting with China, Mexico, and Canada. Okay. So this is what I think the strategy is before we get into exactly what the response is from the Mexican president and all of that, right? The strategy A is to clamp down on China trying to take over American manufacturing and eliminate jobs. Okay. That's the first strategy because China has been trying to circumvent tariffs and unfair trade practices and a trade deficit by then building factories in Mexico because Trump renegotiated the North American Free Trade Agreement when he was in office the first time. So, what that means is China makes the products, and similarly to what happens when they build a assembly plant here in the United States of America, they don't necessarily make the parts here, but they ship all of the parts in that they made all over the world, and then they assemble it here in the United States of America. So sometimes you can look at the box, you can look at Apple products, you can look at the this thing, the sheet, right? Whatever the sheet is that you go when you buy your car is, most of the time they'll have on there this assembled in America or assembled in this country. 93% of the parts made here, 7% of the parts made there. And so most things are assembled here in America, but it's not necessarily made here in America. And that's how they get you. That's how they market to you. Okay. And so what China tried to do is they took all of the capital investment from both being subsidized by their country and then outside investors like Warren Buffett. And then they said, oh, you know what? We're going to take companies like BYD and furniture makers and all of this stuff. We're going to build plants in Mexico, assemble it there, and then ship it straight into the United States of America to forego building plants and building jobs inside of the United States themselves. So instead of them participating in the economy, they want to always be slick, always circumvent it, and then say, well, we're just going to build in Mexico and ship it up there because we don't actually want to pay the price to play in the United States of America. But Trump said, no, we're not doing that. So either you build here in the United States of America, or you don't do business at all, or you can catch these tariffs because we're not going to throw away American jobs anymore. We're not going to forego our future, our children's future, to make a quick buck and then try to save a couple dollars that you just going to go and spend on OnlyFans in the first place. All right. So the goal was not only to slap tariffs on China, but also to slap tariffs on Mexico. But then they can't leave out Canada. Why? Because you can't have a disproportionate amount of bias towards Mexico and not include Canada, right? So Canada got to get this work too, because not only are illegal migrants coming in through Canada, and they are a lot more secure with their borders. Absolutely, they are. I'm right on a border city for Canada in Detroit, but Canada got to get the work too. And so they kind of, just because they're part of the North American Free Trade Agreement, because they are our neighbors also, they have to participate in this whole tariff war, right? And so in order to get a gain and leverage, and Trump talks about this in his book, he said, listen, we're going to put tariffs on everybody on day one. And one of the requirements is that we got to stop the flow of drugs into this country from Mexico. On top of that, on top of China trying to trick us. And we have to make sure that we stop this migrant crisis. So we're not just going to be deporting people over here because that's after the situation happens. What we also going to do is we going to force you to not let them use your country as an opportunity to be able to get over into the United States of America. So either get your stuff together or you're going to pay the price. And guess what? Almost 85, if not close to 90% of all business that's done in Mexico is done as far as a benefit from the United States of America's niceties. It's done as a result of what we do for them. And so when you then give them the leverage, what do they have to do? They got to comply to your demands, which is why I don't understand why the Biden administration and Kamala Harris has been letting this go on for so long, unless they was getting their own pockets lined by it. I don't know. But this was Claudia Sheinbaum's initial statement towards Trump saying that he wanted to have tariffs against Mexico if they don't start to get their stuff together. Check it out.
Out of the reaction to President-elect Trump's threat to hit Canada and Mexico with tariffs on day one of his new administration. Two countries are pushing back.
Y'all hit a like for the algorithm. This is too great. We deep dive in too much. We give y'all too much insight in addition to reporting the news. We give y'all too much understanding, and we break this down all the way to a C student's perspective, so that when you go to Thanksgiving dinner today, you can sit there and tell them and explain to them clearly why it's important for them to look at it the way that you see it, instead of them going based off of what's marketed to them based off of identity politics. So make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm. If you've been here more than once, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Let's continue.
Mexico's president is warning that her country could retaliate against the U.S. with tariffs of its own. Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis here with the story. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning to you, George. Nice to see you guys. And he is threatening Mexico and Canada with those tariffs unless they crack down on the flow of migrants and drugs. They are pushing back, but it is American consumers who could end up paying the biggest price. This morning, President-elect Trump's threat to impose tariffs on America's neighbors already prompting a growing fight with Mexico and Canada. Mexico's new president threatening to retaliate with tariffs of their own if Trump follows through on his pledge to impose 25% across-the-board tariffs on both countries, potentially sparking a devastating trade war.
No es aceptable.
Mexico's president says tariffs are not acceptable and it would cause inflation and job losses in the U.S. and Mexico. Adding later, Mexico respects Trump, but we also ask respect for ourselves. To the north, in Canada, an emergency session of Parliament where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who's had a rocky relationship with Trump, is trying to calm nerves, speaking to Trump within hours of him posting his threat Monday night.
What we will do.
And I am going to go over that in the next segment. I want to focus specifically on Canada because I don't think that our Canadian neighbors get as much visibility as they should. But I'm really getting entertained by Canadian politics. So international politics is very much entertaining, just as entertaining as it is here in the United States of America. But we're going to get into that. So the Mexican president, recently elected, first female president of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, then says, no. We're going to show a sign of strength, right? We're going to show a sign of strength. We're not going to let you guys bully us. And then immediately she got on the phone. So this is what Trump just yesterday, just last night, reported happened between him as far as the phone call. Now, you would think, before I even play this, you would think that this is something that Biden is handling, that Kamala Harris wouldn't still be on vacation in Hawaii getting drunk. And that she, as a person that is supposed to be the go-between on international relations and the border czar, would be handling, getting her reps up, becoming more familiar with international relations and diplomacy, that Biden would be making this phone call with Claudia Sheinbaum. But wait a minute, you telling me that Trump is really the acting president less than 54 days before he enters into office, that Trump is the one that is brokering deals, the art of the deal, that Trump is the one that is actually getting things done inside of the United States of America before he's even taken a position. So before he gets inaugurated on January 20th, that Trump is the one that is taking phone calls with Canada, China, Mexico, Russia, Zelensky over in Ukraine, and he's the one that's fixing the economy so that he can deliver on his promise on day one to ultimately do exactly what he did and what he promised on the campaign trail. Ain't that crazy? We're not even in 2025 yet, and Trump is already taking phone calls and fixing the border. But this is what Trump has recently said about the wonderful conversation that he had with Claudia Sheinbaum.
Welcome back, everyone. Here to Live Now from Fox, coming on with some breaking news here for you. Well, we just learned through Donald Trump on his Truth Social. Take a look at.
She did not call him a liar this morning. That is false. I did my research. Darren Walker, I know who you are, and I know exactly what your goals are because I've had a conversation with you before. She did not call him a liar at all. I did my research. Don't listen to what CNN is telling you because I had to go and I researched it and I found out exactly what CNN was saying, but that's not what she said. So they spend it in order to be able to have a conversation amongst each other. And that's not what happened. But this is what Trump said on Truth Social as a result. And he said that they had a conversation and this is what's going on.
He just said he had a wonderful conversation with the new president of Mexico. She has agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border. We also talked about what can be done to stop the massive drug inflow into the United States and also U.S. consumption of these drugs. It was a very productive conversation. Now, this has been something in the works for quite some time.
This is why you can't trust traditional media. We use it as the trampoline to have these conversations, to have a reference point, but we don't depend on it to be able to justify what we're reporting in the news. And this is why the Millionaire Morning Show is different from what you see out there as far as what Reuters and the AP and all of these conglomerates are putting out there in the media. I don't go by what other people say. I look at it and then I go and do my own research. And before we ever have this show, then I start to use it as a reference point and then I give my own opinion. That's the difference between me and everybody else. And that's why we the greatest morning show on earth.
We know that Donald Trump has campaigned on this issue, talking about as soon as he would get in, he would try to implement tariffs, not only to Mexico, but to China and Canada. And earlier this week, he put out that message saying that he would. Now, Canada is already examining possible retaliatory tariffs on certain items from the United States should President-elect Donald Trump follow through on his threats to impose sweeping tariffs on Canadian products, a senior official said today. Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on products from Canada and Mexico if the countries don't stop what he called the flow of drugs and migrants across the southern and northern borders there. So this has obviously been a campaign issue, not only in this cycle for President-elect Trump, but going all the way back to 2015, if you remember. And even before 2015, Donald Trump has been talking about tariffs and the need for putting it on countries that are what he calls not following the direct orders or law of the United States here. So this has been something that has been building up for quite some time. He did the tariffs in round one of his presidency. We will see if on January 20th, like he said earlier this week, that he would do. But given from this conversation now that he posted on his Truth Social, just getting off the phone there with the president of Mexico, in his words, she has agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border. We also talked about what can be done to stop the massive drug inflow into the United States and also U.S. consumption of these drugs. It was a
So now let me give you the full context, Darren, because I actually anticipated somebody like you saying that. So CNN goes on to say, no, Trump is a liar. She said that she never talked to him. Trump is, matter of fact, let me pull it up. I'm going to pull it up for you because I want to actually use it as a reference point, okay? Give me a second. Give me a second. I'm going to pull it up for you specifically because I want us to be very, very clear. And I anticipate. Give me a second. Let me find it. I want to pull it up. No need in debating it. We just going to go ahead and say it. So this is what CNN then reports.
Dispute between the president-elect of the U.S. and Mexico's president over a phone call. Who agreed to what and what it may mean for the U.S.-Mexico relationship. Donald Trump brought out some of his best words, for example, wonderful, to describe a conversation with Mexico's Claudia Sheinbaum, ending his Truth Social post by claiming she agreed to, quote, stop migration through Mexico and into the United States. Sheinbaum actually just responded moments ago, and the short version is never, no, not one.
Hold on, let me rewind what she just said.
Actually just responded migration through Mexico and into the United States. Scheinbaum actually just responded moments ago, and the short version is never, no, not once, did she say anything of the kind.
This is why you have to be careful with what your sources are and you got to do your own research. Let me play it one more time for what CNN just said, okay?
And into the United States. Scheinbaum actually just responded moments ago, and the short version is never, no, not once, did she say anything of the kind.
Cool. Interesting. So I go out and I said, okay, well, did she say that? Did they have a conversation? Because she's saying that, where CNN is reporting at least, that Scheinbaum said that they didn't have a conversation at all. Did not have a conversation. Okay, so I go on Truth, not on Truth Social, because that's not what she was on. I go on to X, okay? And I go to Claudia Scheinbaum's X account because guess what? They all are on Elon Musk's platform. And I say, okay, well, let me look at it and let me also get the translation. In our conversation with President Trump, that's the first thing that she says. In our conversation with President Trump, I explained to him the comprehensive strategy that Mexico has followed to address the migration phenomenon respecting human rights. So wait a minute. CNN said that he's a liar. She goes on to X and said that she just had a conversation with Trump, and this was at 8:34 p.m. yesterday, last night. Thanks to this, migrants and caravans are assisted before they reach the border. The goal isn't to close the border, but to build bridges between governments and between peoples. So, wait a minute. Why is CNN trying to spin this? Because, again, I anticipated you saying that or for somebody to say that. Why is CNN trying to spin this to act like he lied about the fact that he spoke with her and discussed with her the fact that they need to get to these migrants before they reach the United States of America border and then stop this migrant caravan from coming over there? Now, I understand that Mexico still have to pretend like they got some level of strength and they can determine what happens. Of course they supposed to. They're not supposed to just kowtow and say, you know what, he told us what to do and we did it. But why is CNN spinning this? And this is one of the reasons why they're getting laid off. This is why people don't trust the regular news anymore, and why it's important for us to be mindful of what we take in, because it's not just what some woman that got short hair is saying because she mad at the fact that Kamala Harris lost the election. It's important for us to just get the facts, report on the facts, and then give our opinion from what we see is being shown. So if Trump says something and then Claudia Scheinbaum's in Mexico says something and then CNN reports on it, I then go do the research and find out what the truth is, report it to you from both sides, and then give my opinion on what makes sense. That's the difference. That's exactly what the difference is. So again, this is why I like to participate with the chat, because I want y'all to start paying attention to what these people are saying. And I want you to understand how CNN is spinning this. Let me play it for y'all again, exactly what she said on CNN to try to make it seem like it didn't happen the way that he's saying that it happened. I'm going to play it for y'all again, and then I want y'all to come to the conclusion of whether or not she called him a liar, okay? Let me go ahead and play it again. Exactly what she said, how she let out.
Dispute between the president-elect of the U.S. and Mexico's president over a phone call. Who agreed to what and what it may mean for the U.S.-Mexico relationship. Donald Trump brought out some of his best words, for example, wonderful, to describe a conversation with Mexico's Claudia Scheinbaum, ending his Truth Social post by claiming she agreed to, quote, stop migration through Mexico and into the United States. Scheinbaum actually just responded moments ago, and the short version is never, no, not once, did she say anything of the kind.
And then they try to get away with it by lying, by saying, well, the short version, no, say what I'm taking it to mean, which is not necessarily what she said, but this is my opinion of it. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, yeah, man. But let me just share with y'all. Well, I don't think it's necessary to go any deeper into that. That is what happened. Obviously, I believe my biggest takeaway from this whole situation is that I believe that it's important for um us to learn a lesson. A, that we got to do our own research. B, we got to understand the difference between a spin and the truth. And then C, I believe that it's important to realize that this administration that's currently in office, Biden and Kamala Harris, has been so incompetent that they didn't even start negotiations with Mexico at all. They haven't even made any requirements at all. They just been running migrants over into the border the entire time. And so that's the thing that we really should be questioning. All right.